Republicans are dominating the agenda in Iowa. What might we see in 2019? And what might change with the caucus that's less than a year away? And getting more women into construction jobs. Who's making sure there are no barriers in the cities? Iowa appears to be a politically purple state with Democratic victories in 3 of the state's 4 congressional districts last year. But at the state level, it's a darker shade of red. Republicans control the governor's mansion, both houses of the legislature. That means the next 12 months will be a politically charged period of time as state lawmakers try to govern the people of Iowa, but also as national politicians try to win over the support of Iowa caucus scores before the 2020 Iowa caucuses. And joining us is the state chairman of the Iowa Republican Party, Jeff Kaufman. So good to see you again.
Great to see you again.
Let's start with the Trump presidency. That's going to be on the ballot no matter what in Iowa. Do you see the president being stronger than ever in Iowa? Because he always had a lead leading up to the last election, the 2016 election.
If you analyze the results of the 2018 election, he actually had coattails in the rural areas. I firmly believe that in rural Iowa and the 85 of the 99 counties that I think you can safely categorize as rural, I think he actually helped our legislative candidates there. I think he was helpful to the governor in those particular races. In the urban areas, suburban areas, a little more challenging. I mean, we have some work to do. I'll be real blunt with you. We have some work to do among the so-called soccer mom demographics.
Well, I would think the suburban areas are the ones that you'd be most concerned about.
Absolutely. That's where we're not going to take rural Iowa for granted.
Right.
But we are, in fact, right before I walked into the studio to visit with you today, I was on the phone talking about some urban initiatives that we want to put together. I think we can win back a lot of those urban areas just with the promises made, promises kept. I think there's some exciting things. I mean, what millennial or soccer mom can't be excited about ending the Korean War, about denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula? I mean, the president has some things on the table right now. I see an end to the, or resolution to the tariff issue, which is going to have a tremendous impact across this entire state. There are some balls that are lined up right now that are going to, aside from maybe some tweets that may make people uncomfortable, that can show that this president's policies are actually working for all demographics.
You really do wonder whether in rural Iowa or elsewhere that foreign affairs is that big of a deal because everyone votes their pocketbook. And let's be honest, Governor Reynolds pointing out that the budget's in good shape, that helped her to a great extent. So do you think that now that the economy is good, everyone is now looking for something else?
You know, that's a great question. I mean, there's always, even when you have a strong economy, there are always families that can do better. Right. There's always struggles. And I think reaching out and continuing to reach out to those particular families, knowing that we understand in certain sectors there may be challenges, economic challenges, and also, you know, we've got a tariff policy that we have to bring to a resolution. That is an inherent policy where the foreign policy and the and rural Iowa intersect in a major way.
So much.
I got to tell you, I really have been pleasantly surprised at how Iowans seem to get the president's long ball game here. Understanding that there could be some short-term pain in terms of the retribution that China is wreaking upon us. Right. At the same time, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the polling, and if I look anecdotally as I travel the state, farmers and really Iowans seem to understand that in the end, we had a situation that was inherently unfair. If we can make it more fair and our policies with China more fair, in the end, that's going to be long-term. We're talking children, grandchildren kind of long-term.
But as you know, as a politician, the clock is ticking on something like that. The patience of the pocketbook for farmers who are hard hit, particularly by the tariff disagreements, that goodwill only lasts for so long.
I agree, and I'm pleasantly surprised that we seem to be, the Republican Party, President Trump seems to be very strong in those very areas where those pocketbooks are being hit. But absolutely, we've got to show some resolution. We've got to show some advancement. And, you know, I can't look you in the eye and say I'm not a little bit nervous about that. But I really believe the president is on the right track. And I'm going to actually have dinner with Ambassador Branstad next week. And it's one of the topics we're going to talk about out. And I tell you, I feel so much better having one of Iowa's own in the midst of all of that, because Republican, Democrat, or Independent, I think we all know where Terry Branstad's heart is.
Let's talk also about what's going on right now with Michael Cohen, the Trump, I was going to say campaign, that's not right, the Trump company's fix-it man, so to speak. Also, the Mueller probe supposedly coming to a wrap and that release in the coming months. Is that going to have an impact coming into November and into the caucus season in January and February?
You know, let me take one at a time. With the Cohen hearings, I heard somebody when I was waiting to come in and visit with you, they call it a circus. You know, first of all, shame on the Democrats for putting this up at the same time he's having talks about denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. That's not a particularly classy move on their part, and I think Americans understand that. But there's nothing that Michael Cohen is going to tell us that we don't already know. Is the president an angel throughout his personal life before he's president? No, we know that. I don't think there's going to be anything new there. The Mueller probe, I actually think that could reach back and grab some of the hard left that were hoping there was going to be these great big huge bombshells and collusion. You can already see the left starting to make excuses for why there's not going to be much there.
But let's be honest, that's almost like debate prep. You lower expectations on one side, you heighten expectations on the other. That's exactly what's going on.
But I would, and point well taken, except I would make the argument that if there was even a smell of collusion, Mueller in the last couple of years would have brought that out. There's no way he wants to. Exit this, in my opinion, charade, although I was in favor of letting it go on to its conclusion. There is no way that he wants this to devolve into a report with innuendo, but I think that's what we're going to get, is a report with innuendo.
Do you want to see a primary challenge? As I know you never want to see the incumbent necessarily challenged, but I mean, sometimes the non-politician in you might say, you know, if you get a challenge, you get a stronger campaign. I'm sure the Clinton people wouldn't necessarily say that anymore, but you know what I mean. Do you expect to be seeing any type of challenge against the president for the Iowa caucuses?
In Iowa, I'm not seeing it right now.
Governor Bill Weld being a libertarian and a Republican.
Some of Bill Weld's policies, social policies, they're just not going to play well among our base. John Kasich blew off Iowa in 2016.
Sure,
I don't see him coming back. Mm-hmm. I don't see that in Iowa. In other states, when I talk to other chairs, in other states, I think they're perhaps looking towards a potential primary or a challenge. In Iowa, I don't think there's going to be any appreciable challenge at this point. I've been very clear, though. I am not endorsing. Obviously, it's a thin line I walk sometimes, but I'm going to stand up for the president. That's my job. Need to be fired if I don't. But at the same time, I really don't think that my neutrality that I have pledged for the integrity of the caucuses, I really don't think I'm going to have to worry a whole lot about that. I'm literally not seeing or hearing it anywhere. And if anything, I'm seeing people, I'm seeing some of these candidates start to say, well, the deck is stacked against us. And I want to say, no, I'm sorry, but this pro-Trump Republican chair has said, I am not going to endorse, and I'm going to make sure that everybody has a fair hearing. So if you don't want to come into Iowa because you know that we love the president here, that's one thing. But don't try to blame it that the deck is stacked, because if it's stacked in the popularity of this president and not anything that we're setting up in terms of barriers or roadblocks.
No, every 4 years, if not every 4 minutes, you hear about how strong the Iowa caucuses are going to be this year, this upcoming Iowa caucus season. And I want to talk about some of the changes the Democrats want to make. But for the Republican Party, how critically important is the Iowa caucuses if you don't really have anybody running against the president?
You know, that's a fair question. My mind right now, if we end up not having a viable challenger to the president, my mind right now is on 2024 and 2028. We must have great caucuses here. What that means is we're going to have the same amount of dollars, the same amount of training, the same amount of technology and transparency, because we have to continually, every 4 years, show the rest of the Republican Party nationally and the rest of the country that we can do this. So
2020 almost ramps up.
Absolutely.
For 2024.
Absolutely, and that's why we are. We were asked several times, are we going to have a vote? Because there were some states that said we may not. My answer was always across the board, absolutely we are. We have got to constantly be vigilant, Republicans and Democrats, and you will not see any space between the two parties when it comes to making sure that A, we want this first in the nation status, and B, we're not going to take it for granted. So surprisingly, even if the president has no viable contest,
yep.
we have got to pull off a great caucus again.
So I want to talk about what the Democrats are proposing in some of the things, almost to revitalize, I shouldn't say revitalize, but to add emphasis to the Iowa caucuses, is to almost create what they're calling a virtual caucus, which would allow people in the days before the actual meeting of caucus goers is to be able to participate online. Almost trying to, I think, as we were talking about earlier, is that the caucus has brought in Microsoft in trying to get moving forward technologically. What do you see as far as the Democratic proposal? And you don't have to do the same thing, of course, but right. I mean, in a way, you want to be lockstep, or you definitely want to know what the other party's doing.
You know, both parties have their own unique national interests that they have to satisfy. Right. You know, in our Republican caucus, it was always Texas, and Texas thought they wanted what we wanted. In the Democratic caucus, I think there are more pressures to open up those caucuses and have non-present participation. I believe my Democratic colleagues are calling it. I don't believe we have those pressures. I have had very few people ask for that, and I've had no one at the national level put pressure on Republicans to do that. From the Republican perspective, we're comfortable with the caucuses essentially running the way that they have been, an actual meeting and interaction. Obviously, we're going to always be vigilant to make sure that our disabled Iowans can get to our caucuses, and there are some initiatives we're going to do there. We are also going to continue and try to perfect our men and women that are serving overseas in the armed forces.
Sure.
So we're going to have some of that. I don't believe it's going to be as extensive as the Democrats. I want the Democrats, and this is the one thing that's so strongly bipartisan about my job, I want the Democrats to satisfy the interests and the recommendations that they have to satisfy at their national level. And so I'm wholeheartedly behind them. I have told Troy that I am going to be, who is the Democratic chair, told him I am going to be supportive of what they need to do. And I know that same type of allegiance is going to come back this way.
But here's the problem, is that you have a line that you can't cross. And if you're going to have participation that's not in a caucus, one can argue that's not a caucus, it's a primary. And then you open the floodgates. Then you got New Hampshire going, that's not the agreement. We're going before you because that's the way it's supposed to be. There's a fine line you guys have to keep an eye on.
Well, there's no doubt about it. In fact, the last time, I believe it was last month, I talked to the National Committee man from New Hampshire. And we talked about this very thing. And I know that my colleague Troy is doing his homework in terms of talking to the New Hampshire folks there. I feel very confident that the Democratic Party of Iowa is making sure they know where that line is and that they're not going to cross it. I truly have confidence in them, and that's why I support their efforts. From my perspective, I know what the promises I have made to my New Hampshire colleagues and actually South Carolina colleagues as well. And I also talk quite frequently with the Nevada chair.
I was going to say Nevada is becoming more and more important too.
Absolutely, and they have a caucus, and they are one of the 4 carve-out states.
Let's talk about state legislature, because Republicans controlling not only the governor's office, and congratulations on that November election, hard fought, very close, but you also actually increased leads in the legislature. So you've got the House and the Senate. What are you expecting from the legislature this year?
Let me preface everything, because I'm going to assume we're going to talk about some issues that tend to be controversial. Last year, I believe, over 70% of all bills that passed out of that Iowa legislature were either unanimous or strongly bipartisan. I expect that figure will be the same, if not more. In fact, I am seeing more bipartisan work on the education budget. That's usually one of the things that really than we ever have. So surprisingly, amidst some of the issues that may separate based on party, I think we're probably going to end up with more unanimous or strongly bipartisan votes than we've had before.
A lot of times those are procedural votes of that 70%. I mean,
absolutely,
yeah, so.
Absolutely.
But as you said, I mean, the contentious areas seem to be some of the social issues. We're talking about abortion and the like. I mean, that's not going to go away anytime soon. Were you surprised that the governor decided not to go forward with the lawsuit?
I was not. The handwriting's on the wall, Jim.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no doubt that the Iowa Supreme Court would have declared that unconstitutional. There is no way that we are going to get a hearing through that avenue at the federal Supreme Court, so I support the governor.
So the Republicans are now trying to make it so that you change the state constitution in order to not necessarily preserve abortion as a right inside the Constitution. You support that as well?
Well, I mean,
the party does?
The party is going to support whatever comes out of that Republican legislature. I will say this, though, about the amendment process, and this should make even your independent and Democratic viewers comfortable. Remember, our amendment process is a very, very democratic one, little d. Every Iowan is going to get a chance to weigh in on anything that legislature puts forth. So I will tell you as
far as constitutional changes.
As far as constitutional changes. And I will tell you as a legislator that had to sit in that seat and think about it, there is a pressure on legislators to make sure that what they're putting forth for the people to vote on is reasonable, is something that Iowans support. So you can better believe that whatever amendment is put forth, it will be a reasonable one, at least an honest attempt to try to get the, or a reasonable attempt, I should say, to get the people to vote for that initiative.
The other contentious issue will, of course, be what happens with the future as far as judges, Supreme Court judges. With right now, I believe all of them being attorneys of some sort. The Republicans in the legislature want to see a little more accountability for the legislature, and that they would be able to have some people that would help pick these judges. Democrats say it's a power grab. You guys have the House. You guys got the Senate. You got the governor's mansion. Now you want the courts. What say you?
Well, here's the ironic thing. There are more Republicans on these commissions than Democrats, so it's a little hard to call this a power grab when we would actually be hurting, if you will.
Well, but the commission is made out of attorneys.
Correct.
Aren't they necessarily nonpartisan, or am I just...
Well,
exactly right.
Yeah, we know these attorneys are not political, and I don't really say that as a slam at attorneys. Attorneys are political. Let's face it, judges have an ideology. I can predict with a high percentage of how every appellate court judge and how every Supreme Court judge is going to vote. What this is about, in my opinion, and there has been an amendment now in the House that has essentially left the district judges alone, which is where a lot of pushback was coming. This is an attempt to take a situation, instead of the lawyers driving the train, and it's a very small amount of attorneys that actually participate in choosing who gets that say, and this is removing them and putting the legislature in place. The legislature is accountable to the people. I had somebody say, well, Linda Upmeyer, the speaker, she's not accountable to Davenport folks. She absolutely is. Gary Moore is voting for her. Ross Poston is voting for her. Those are legislators in Scott County. Right. And so I believe strongly, and I think Iowans believe, that if we're going to have many voices in deciding who the governor gets to pick, why shouldn't those voices be lawyers who have conflicts of interest, because they're the very people that they're going to try to rule on their cases? Why shouldn't they be people? And I will tell you one more thing to put some of your viewers at ease. Anything they come up with, the final product is still going to involve the Iowa Bar Association and lawyers choosing it. It's a matter of how those lawyers get on those commissions. That's the key, and I think the people ought to drive that and not the lawyers themselves.
Jeff Kaufman, you get the final word. Congratulations. No, you get no more words. Your time is up. Those are the words.
And I had a profound comment.
You were all set, too. Jeff Kaufman, the Iowa Republican Party chairman, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
We appreciate it all the time. Good to see you. In a moment, getting women interested in bricks and mortar, what the construction trades have to offer. But first, here's Laura Adams, Out and About.
This is Out and About for February 25th through March 3rd. Hi, I'm Laura Adams. The WIU QC Spring Career Fair is coming February 28th, starting at 1:30 at Riverfront Hall, with over 40 organizations in attendance. Put on your best professional duds and come on down. The 25th Annual Spring Antique Spectacular Vintage Market is coming to the QCCA Expo Center in Rock Island, March 1st through 3rd, featuring 70 exhibitors with antiques and vintage items. It's time for Geneseo Kiwanis Pancake Days at the Geneseo Moose Lodge, March 3rd. Enjoy pancakes, sausages, and all the trimmings starting at 7 a.m. The Junior Board of Rock Island present their 80th Annual Mardi Gras Charity Ball, a midwinter night's dream, on March 2nd at the Quad Cities Waterfront Convention Center. Gill's Ballroom in Clinton hosts a benefit for Kayla Sellers, who was severely injured in a car accident. The fundraiser features food, music, and auctions on March 2nd starting at 4. Calling all young artists, students 15 to 21 are eligible to apply for the Quad City Arts Metro Arts Project this spring and summer. Join the German American Heritage Center on March 3rd at 2 p.m. for Hitler, World War I, and the Death of Democracy. You still have time to catch QC Theater Workshop's production of A Doll's House Part 2 closing on March 3rd, and the Quad City Singers present Let's Go to the Movies in concert at Modern Woodman Park on March 3rd. For more information, visit wqpt.org.
Thank you, Laura. Tony Hepner is a singer, songwriter, and guitarist who, with three longtime friends, make up the aptly named band Tony Hepner and Friends. He joined us at Moline's Black Box Theater to take center stage alone and sing one of his original works. Here's Tony Hepner and Heart to Heart.
There's an old man sitting on a park bench, talking to the birds and the rabbits that run on by him. He was married in 1946 to the love of his life, and they had 3 kids. Never spent a day apart, always heart to heart, just like a Sunday in a preacher's sermon. You could tell their love was surely heaven sent. Well, they worked every day just to make ends meet. Times were hard, but the love was sweet. Never spent a day apart, always heart to heart. When they were so young, when they got married, it was true love, kept the fire burning hot. In the blink of an eye, it all passed by. He could only wonder why. Never spent a day apart, always heart to heart. November brought the cold. How did life get so old? The leaves all fell down. Now his time with her was gone. His time with her was gone. Now there's an old man sitting on the front porch, talking to the birds, rabbits that run on by him. He was married in 1946, the love of his life, and they had 3 kids. Never spent a day apart, always heart to heart. Heart to heart, heart to heart, heart to heart.
Tony Hepner, Heart to Heart. His band is next scheduled to hit the stage in 3 weeks on March 23rd at LeClaire's Green Tree Brewery. Well, there's an interesting statistic out there. About half of America's workforce is made up of women, about 47%. But only 1/10 of all construction jobs are performed by women. That's 9%. The coming week is a chance to put a spotlight on the opportunities women may not have considered. And joining us is Leslie Wells from Bush Corporation. Also, you are very active in organizing this coming Women in Construction Week, which is March 3rd through the 9th. Yeah. You know, it used to be that women in construction meant you were the people that were at the beginning of a construction zone holding the slow sign, you know, but that's so changed, and it's so critically important to point out that the opportunities are there.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's many opportunities within the office jobs or through building the actual buildings or renovating those buildings. It's just something that we need to start doing a little bit younger, influencing our girls and our schools to get to get out there and just be to know that there are many options out there.
Because let's be honest, I was the kid that there was industrial arts and there was home ec.
Yeah.
And never shall the two meet.
Nope, never.
Is that, I mean, does it really start very much in junior high school, middle school, and high school?
In my opinion, yes, I would say it absolutely does. The sooner we can make our girls aware that they have these opportunities that the boys do, the better.
Not only the opportunities, but the aptitude.
Yeah. You bet.
And sometimes, well, let's be honest. I mean, when it comes to some of the jobs, let's say drafting or something like that, with math and with other skill levels, there is absolutely no reason why they would be kept out of the workforce.
No reason at all. With like the STEM or STEAM opportunities, your science, you can be an engineer. That is definitely a typical, in the past, male role, but it is becoming more and more a women's job as well.
And that's why it's so important with the STEM and the STEAM education programs, the science, the technology, the engineering, and the math. It's so important in order for women to get involved in that.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
What do you hope that Women in Construction Week does? I mean, is it just shedding a spotlight, or is it the beginning of something a little bigger that these are the opportunities and here's how you get involved?
I think it's a little bit of everything. It's definitely something that we at Bush Construction make sure women are aware. We go to different schools and give speeches and just present on different opportunities that are out there. We also give job site tours, so there's many different opportunities, and that's something that we really pride ourselves on. And so this next coming week, will hopefully make an impact.
Yeah, very much so. But as you were saying, like your personal experience is that you have family members that are in construction or in the trades. Not everyone has that. So you were probably a little less afraid to actually get involved because you knew the opportunities that were there. I mean, that'd be the key thing, is to try to expose girls in particular of what they can be when they become women. I
think so as well. Reiterating the fact, the earlier that we can make girls aware of the opportunities, the better that they can be in this industry as well. There's
a number of workshops, there's training sessions, there's apprenticeships, there are things outside of the schools that a lot of the unions may be providing and other things. Is that something that you hope that parents would make better use of, and how do they find them in the first place?
Yeah, so it's definitely the internet is a great resource. But yeah, our trades have apprenticeship programs. We offer job shadows, internships, different learning opportunities for high school and college students to just make them aware of all of the opportunities there are within the construction industry.
When I think of the construction industry, I mean, a lot of people might think, oh my gosh, it's concrete mixing, or it's moving huge trusses and heavy equipment and moving and all that, and I don't want my daughter doing that, or a girl saying, oh, I can't do that. I think people might be not knowing just how many opportunities there are in the construction field.
Yeah, there's so many that I'm probably not even all familiar with, but with technology being so prevalent in the world and workforce these days, if we can get girls into that technology background to design the buildings, things to that nature, that is something that they're not going to be out there lifting those heavy things or operating that machinery, but they're the ones that can design the building and go from there.
Well, and as I said, about 1 in 10 construction workers are women, only 9%. Do you see that growing? Do you see those barriers being knocked down already?
I hope so. I don't have any kind of number or statistic against that, but I really feel like it is increasing, and it's something that we need to have increasing with the baby boomers, getting ready to retire or retiring. That's gonna hurt our industry a lot. So if we can get women involved just as well as men now, we won't see as much of an impact on that.
Leslie Wells with Bush Construction, thanks so much for joining us. Once again, Women in Construction Week is March 3rd through the 9th, but that doesn't mean it's not every week of the year that you try to consider a career in construction for women.
Correct. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you
Absolutely.
joining us. WQPT is doing its part to support the military men and women in the cities who are serving our nation. We call it Embracing the Military. And the Arsenal Clubhouse wants you to celebrate St. Patrick's Day with them this month. From March 12th through the 15th, the Clubhouse is holding a lunch buffet featuring corned beef and cabbage. They'll also book large group reservations. If you want to make it a party, just contact the Clubhouse for details. On the air, on the radio, on the web, and on your mobile device. Thanks for taking some time to join us. We talk about the issues on the cities.